Hello everyone. Welcome to the EPG Parsala program. Myself, Dr. Shubhabrato Dotto, Professor and Head, Department of Social Work, Assam University, Silchar. Now, in this session, we'll discuss about the pre-independence extension projects and rural development programs under the course Rural Development. In the Indian context, the village population has been growing without a proportionate increase in production or income. The average villager has a pitifully low standard of comfort. Rural reconstruction implies renovation of the village for the total well-being of the ruralities. It is oriented to their social, economic and political development. It is basically the rural population is increasing, definitely with the same proportionate with the country's population, but as the vast population are living, almost 70% are living in the villages, so definitely the village population is a major concern and that should be taken care into the part of the rural development. And before the rural development program starts in India long back, even pre-independence stage. Okay, so the principal objectives of the rural reconstruction include eradication of poverty by means of regeneration of cottage industry, establishment of cooperative societies, improvement of transport, spread of education, progress of health, abolition of social malpractices like casteism, untouchability and the like. The non-violent Swaraj of Mahatma Gandhi was based on the idea of rural reconstruction. Actually, in the pre-independence stage, there are certain renowned names, whether Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi. These are the people who actually initiated the rural reconstruction program with certain projects in certain of the areas of the villages or the districts, and that has actually shown the path for the rural development program in India later on stage. The rural reconstruction has been advocated by three schools of thought. One, there is the philanthropic group. Second, there is the reformist group, and third, revolutionary group. Now let us explain what are those. The philanthropists offer a pragmatic approach. They plead for improving the condition of rural population within the purview of the existing rural institutions and structure of the rural society. Means they attach supreme importance to purely humanitarian endeavors like establishments of schools and hospitals, creation of charity funds to cater the needs of the poor, moral appeal to landlords or moneylenders to relax their pressures on the peasants and the laborers. That means this group has directly targeted the rural population who are under the purview of poverty and in the distress condition, and it should be the people who are in a well-off condition. They should extend their hand for their betterment. The reformists assume that it is the malfunctioning of the existing social institution that cause economic misery and socio-cultural backwardness of the ruralities. They believe that there are certain social conditions that is not in proper in order. Due to this, a group enjoy everything, and due to their enjoyment, a group suffers a lot, and this group is a high number, a very large number of people, population under this group. They therefore stress the need of reformation of the social institution for the healthy functioning of the social system in order to bring out holistic development of the rural community. So they thought it is the rural community to be a total approach for reform certain social institutional pattern so that the change can take place. The revolutionary group supports the program of a revolutionary transformance of the rural matrix. Their approach is a little bit radical oriented. The thinkers belong to this group are of the opinion that evils of the rural community are not an outcome of the malfunctioning of the rural social institution, but are concomitant of the social system. That means our social system, there are certain practices we are engaged. That is the main cause, and that to be reformed. For example, casteism is there. If we cannot abolish the casteism, the attitude towards a oppressed group cannot change. If people's sufferings will go on. Now, what are the basic aspects of the rural reconstructions? why rural reconstruction was looking for, but what are the issues that will be taken care. Broadly speaking, rural reconstruction program entails three aspects that are material, intellectual and moral. So far, material aspect is concerned, rural reconstruction program is oriented to improve health and raise the standard of living of the ruralities. The former is achieved by encouraging better sanitation and by provision of medical aid. Basically, if we construct the rural material part, the rural reconstruction will be basically infrastructural part, that is the health or the education likewise. The moral aspect, what it is covering? The most fundamental, it seeks to awaken the villagers from the long support of ages so that he or she may realize his or her due in life as well as sake of his or her lethargy and work in cooperation with the government agencies to ameliorate this problem. That means morally a person should be encouraged enough to make him aware enough so that he or she can understand why this has happened to him or her and how he or she can overcome this long running the problem he or she is suffering over. What are the importance of the rural reconstruction? Why rural reconstruction has been given an emphasis into? Rural reconstruction puts an end to exploitation, diseases, illiteracy, gambling, drinking, corruption or class struggle. That means these are the basic for which our rural areas are suffering. It seeks to establish a socialistic system in the country and thereby brings about social and economic development of the ruralities. Certain socialistic pattern, that means country should take care. Government have a role to play over there with the system and economic development should take place so that the income can generate and automatically the social issues to be looked after by that. By establishing agriculture and cottage industries, rural reconstruction solves the food problem of the country and saves millions of rupees in foreign exchange which goes towards the import of food grain. It also increases the national income. Earlier we had a shortage of food grains. So that time it was imported from the different countries. So we had to pay our foreign currencies. Now, if agricultural sector improved, automatically that foreign exchange can be saved and import can be reduced. Various individual groups, associations and parties have perceived the gigantic task of rural reconstruction in their own light. Different people thinking on the different perspectives. Prominent among them are the leaders, planners, philanthropic bodies, missionary groups, welfare associations, governmental institutions and others. During the British rule, some selected social worker had started some programs of rural development. The evolution of extension of program is described in two stages. So basically in the British period itself, some thinkers, social workers, they started certain small exercises, maybe with taking some of the villages, making in a district, maybe in combination of 2-3 districts, they started this other work, and that's why it is divided into the two parts, pre-independence era and post-independence era. And in this course, in this module, we are discussing the pre-independence era. During the pre-independence era, various attempts are made by the individual, persons or private agencies. Already I stated, Gurgaon project in Haryana by Mr. F.L. Brane, Srinivas experiment in Bengal by Sri Rabindranath Tagore, Marthandam project by Dr. Spencer Hatch under the auspices of YMCA, Shebagamer experience in Wardha by our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, Adarsha Seva Sangha, Pahari, Gwalior, Indian Village Service in Lucknow, and Itwa in Uttar Pradesh by Mr. A.T. Moser, and Sarvodaya program in Bombay province by Sri B.N. Gupta. Some of them are the very prominent. Now, there are few important, I am just setting up here, Gurgaon project in Haryana by F.L. Brane, Shivagram experiments in Wardha in Gujarat by Sri Mahatma Gandhi, Sriniketan experiment in Bengal, Rabindranath Tagore, Marthandam project in Kerala, Dr. Spencer Hatch, Baroda village reconstruction project by Sri B.T. Krishnamachari, Firka Vikas Yojana in Madras, Government of Madras. Many others were also there, these are small. Here 5 or 6 I am just stating the main objectives, programs and the impact factor of that. Now first one is the Gurgaon project in 1920. In Gurgaon district, this program of village development was first one of the run by the state. It was started by Mr. F.L. Bryan in 1920. He had been appointed at one of the posts of the Deputy Commissioner in Gurgaon district, and he began the project of rural upliftment in his district, which became famous as Gurgaon project. Rural upliftment movement on mass scale was first started by F.L. Bryan. He was promoted by the backwardness, poverty and misery of the people. So just keeping these other things in mind, he started this project. And how actually it worked out? A village guide had been posted to act as a channel through which advice of the experts in various departments could be passed to the villagers. One guide, actually it was a coordinator role from different department. What could have been the advice for the to increase food crop production, to control extra expenditure, to improve the health, to develop the feeling of women education, to home development work. So in this periphery, how villagers should work for their betterment were actually passed from the advice from the different departments by this village guide. And the program of introducing improved seeds, implements, the methods of cultivation, etc. was started throughout the district. As the village guides were not technical men, now the problem starts. Very little permanent value was achieved in fact. The project could not develop leadership in the villages that could continue work when the village guides had left the villages. When the village guide was coming, work was going on, but even still the village guide was not a technical person. And there was no such leadership developed from there who could have been looked after the departure of the village guides. Nevertheless, the project could not much headway to the local talent was not utilized for the development process. Who are the local people who were actually educated enough to continue? They were not grabbed actually. Most of the work done by the exercising authority over the people rather than by the voluntary participation of the local people. That means people were asked to continue, asked to participate, not voluntarily they were eager to participate. Moreover, this project was based upon the sentiments of the F.L. Bryan. When he transferred, gradually this program stopped. Now the next program is Sriniketan experiment in 1921, one of the very prominent experiment rural development program in India. It is by the philosophy of the Rabindranath Tagore. The Tagore's ideological framework and attitude towards the life of and society of rural people was inspirational to attract the Leonard Elmhurst, a British agronomist, to come to India upon the invitation of Rabindranath Tagore to work with him for the rural reconstruction. And in the process, they began to formulate methods for social and economic change. Now, before going much, I can say Rabindranath Tagore, when he was actually just growing up, he went to his Silaidahud, now currently in Bangladesh, and he actually observed the misery of the villagers, the untouchability problems, and many more. So from there, it was in his mind to initiate some work for the rural betterment, and that was the philosophy that it was inculcated in him. And what Tagore said, if we could free even one village from sickness of helplessness and ignorance, an ideal for the whole India would be established. Let a few villages be rebuilt in this way, and I shall say, they are my India. That is the way to discover the true India. Very corrective word. That starts some of the villages, start work in some of the villages, and that will spread, for the other parts. To translate his dream into reality, the Institute of Rural Reconstruction in Sriniketan was established in 1922 as an experiment with the initiative of Tagore and Elmhurst. Elmhurst was supposed to be the man behind the entire experiment. The objective of Sriniketan is to bring back life in its completeness to the village, making them self-reliant and self-respectful, acquainted with the cultural tradition of their own country and competent to make an efficient use of modern resources for the improvement of their physical, intellectual and economic conditions. Almost a very holistic approach it was taken. Let us see the specific objectives of the Srinivas experiment. Specific objective of the mission, what was that? To win the friendship and affection of the villagers and cultivators by taking a real interest in all that concerned their lives and welfare, and by making a lively effort to assist them in solving their most pressing problems. That means the villagers should be made involved into the process to solve their problems. To take the problem of the village and the field to the classroom for study and discussion, and to the experimental farm for solution. Let their problem to bring here, let us discuss as a laboratory into the class and experiment, and then return back to the result for the implementation. To put the students in the way of acquiring practical experiments in cultivation, dairy, animal husbandry, poultry keeping, carpentry and smithing, weaving and tannery, in practical sanitation work and in the art of spirit of cooperation. Almost all area that a village is required for the development was touched. To give the students elementary instruction in the science connected to their practical work. Students should actually take the practical work, the problem that lies in the villages. To encourage in the staff and the students of the department itself a spirit of sincere service and a willing sacrifice for the people of the surrounding villages. To train the students to a due sense of their own intrinsic worth, physical and moral, and in particular to teach them to do with their own hands everything which a village householder or a cultivator does or should do for a living, if possible, more efficiently. That means it is a both. The students who are there into the Dadan ashram, they will also learn in this process. Their practical will be in the village, and the village will get the benefit from their learnings. The experiment was strongly supported by the team of foreigners and Bengalis. Among the foreigners, C.F. Andrews, W.W. Pearson, Kim Taro, Dorothy Strait Whitney, Miss Johnson remarkably contributed for the development of the Sriniketan as a model of village development, both by their own efforts and sometimes with the financial assistance. Actually, these are the foreigners sometimes contribute to the financial assistance too. Later on, the Kalimohan Ghosh, to whom Rabindranath Tagore sent to the UK for agriculture study. That time in India there was no agriculture studies available. He came back and joined with the mission. Sriniketan program covered broadly 4 general areas: agriculture, craft, village industries and welfare and education. The concept, and there are a few important concepts. The concept of Dharmogola. Dharmogola means is a cooperation. Reflecting the principle of cooperative was introduced in 1928 for the benefit of the villagers. Later on, many villages were found with Dharmogolas and they ran it quite efficiently. And that concept later on was taken by the Denmark also. The district of Birbhum was surrounded by the Santals, an indigenous and disadvantaged tribal community. They were under utter poverty and landless laborers. So, formation of Santal Hitasi Samiti in 1931 by Kalimohan Ghosh was a landmark in the development of the tribal community and gave a new flip to the Sriniketan experiment. Now, we have seen there is an education program, there is a cooperatives program, there is a things in there, but still certain problems Sriniketan experiment encountered. In spite of the success of the story of Sriniketan, Tagore himself acknowledged some of the difficulties of Sriniketan experiment, stating that forces are working for creating a complete deviation from the path which we pursued when we first began our work. Somehow, the program was pushing around instead of voluntarily participation. He also considered that the unlimited freedom which he had given to the staff had resulted in a fragmented program. Somehow the staff could not handle the entire issues. He found that the approach of the experts had undermined the establishing of sympathetic relationship with the villagers. Somehow the relationship with the villagers are also not affected. But still I can say that still Sriniketan experiment later on, these are the agricultural institutions, social work departments and the cottage industrial training institutions all has come up with this experiment and later on is a part of the university. Now come to the another project, Marthandam project. That is in 1928. The work was commenced by Dr. Spencer Hatch, an American agriculture expert in Travancore under the auspices of YMCA in 1921. The villages in Marthandam were very underdeveloped economically and economic condition of the native majority was very poor. Here people used to cultivate only paddy and coconut on some places. For exploiting this weakness, it was thought that some development work should be done so that the Christian faith could be spread. Consequently, Dr. Hatch made agreement with the YMCA and the church for his work and initiated the project in neighboring village of Marthandam. Actually, there was some fund was also required. For the fund, YMCA was a supporting hand. The main objective of the project was to bring more abundant life for the rural people. More or less same objective all projects were taking. It was intended to symbolize the threefold development, not only spiritual, mental and physical, but also economic and social. The essential technique of the center was self-help with intimate expert counsel. From the demonstration center at Marthandam, about 100 villages were covered through YMCA centers in villages. Actually, some center created and villages were called and some experiment was given and they asked them to implement. For this project, Extension Secretary was appointed, supervised the activities of the group. Marthandam was in a strategic position to serve the villages. It kept prize bulls, goats, model bee leaves, demonstration plots for improving grain and vegetable seeds, poultry runs with prize laying hens, a weaving shed. Inside the center there was equipment like honey extractors, health charts and many more. At the center, cottage vocations were taught and agricultural implements tested. So likewise, it was in 1939, it became the self-governing body where this as an institution. For this program, Dr. Hatch remained for a long period because he had trained workers and the local people were inspired to work for themselves. It was from the other, it was a little bit different because an experiment type they're bringing and providing training. As such, this project was very successful in the area, but the whole program was centered on a person, and after the death of Dr. Hatch, there was a conflict on the question of leadership between YMCA and the church association. And due to no economic advantage to the non-paid workers, this program could not survive. That is the problem it took place. Now another program, that is Firka Vikas Yojana 1946. The government of Madras, now Tamil Nadu, decided to make efforts for the development of village at Firka level. This program began in 1946. Among the pre-independence project, this was the biggest project. The Firka development scheme launched by Madras government in 1946 aimed at attainment of Gandhian ideal of village Swaraj by bringing about not only educational, economic, sanitary and other developmental activities of villages, but also by revitalizing the spirit of the people and making them self-confident and self-reliant. Sarvodaya scheme was launched by the Bombay government with a view to promoting the furtherance of Gandhiji's constructive program. In this project, I could not cover the Shivagram one because in another module we have discussed the Gandhian model of rural economy where this project has been discussed in details. So far, basically here we discuss Gurgaon project, a Sriniketan experiment, Marthandam experiment, Firka experiments. All these experiments did by certain leaders, it was spreaded, but somehow not continued long. So the question may be raised whether this is the failure. No, these are not the failure. These were initiated, this could not continue as it is. And even till after independence, it was not possible to continue like this. But this is the project has shown us the direction, has given the direction to the government of India after independence, how our rural development programs to be initiated in the country. That is the uniqueness of these are the experiments. And still these are the experiments have the ideas are still being implemented. Whether the Gandhiji's idea on self-reliance and self-respect, idea of decentralization, Seneca and experience idea of people's participation, these are all part into our programs. And now different amendment have taken place in later on in the different acts. These are the issues have been enacted. So that is the uniqueness of this other project. Thank you.